Well, there he is. Michelangelo's Dave.
Davin.
Oh, what's wrong, Marge?
Once more, the Simpsons have done it. The forecasts for 2026 feel more ominous than ever because this cartoon has been slipping in jokes for decades that strangely mirrored real life years later. While some are humorous, some are far too personal, but collectively
Have mastered the one true science, astrology.
Don't you mean astronomy?
No, my dear, I said astrology.
you won't want to miss the picture they paint. These forecasts, which range from obscure clues written in chalk to incidents that rocked entire industries, are what keep people talking. We have 15 of them set up, and one in particular will blow your mind. Laugh line becomes shock from surveillance, the Simpsons movie, which combines slapstick humor and scathing sarcasm. Brought the adored cartoon family to the big screen in July 2007. The Simpsons escape on a train in one brief but famous moment after Springfield is placed under quarantine by the authorities. It's not like the government is listening to everybody's conversations. Marge tries to soothe Lisa. A huge surveillance center is revealed in the opening scene of the movie, with rows of agents listening in on calls, including Marge's. This was widely interpreted at the time as an outlandish exaggeration and a humorous poke at the escalating worries about government overreach and privacy. 6 years later, in 2013, fiction once more came into contact with the real world. Former National Security Agency NSA contractor Edward Snowden released highly classified data demonstrating extensive monitoring operations. Millions of people worldwide were impacted by the disclosures, which revealed that the U.S. government had been gathering vast volumes of private information, internet communications, and phone metadata. The scope of the surveillance once again astounded viewers and sparked discussions about civil liberties, safety, and privacy around the globe. In the Simpsons movie, something that had previously seemed like an impossible joke suddenly felt incredibly real. By including that movie clip in the Snowden-inspired disclosures pot, the media once again presented it as just another example of the Simpsons' strange capacity to foretell actual events. It's possible that the authors never intended for the portion to mock public fears of government eavesdropping. This moment seems to foreshadow an actual controversy. As the cartoon cheekily suggested, taking a joke and turning it into visual humor unintentionally depicted a future reality: mass monitoring. Not as science fiction, but as something that was silently occurring for years before the public realized it. If that twist made you shiver, get ready for the following one, which is much more shocking. When tragedy echoed from Homer's dive, The Simpsons' Homer's Paternity Coot, Season 17. Episode 10 was broadcast in January 2006. The main plot point of the story was Homer's discovery that Mason Fairbanks, a treasure seeker, might be his biological father. Homer and Mason embark on an underwater search for the wreck of the legendary treasure ship, Paiso Mojado, as a way to strengthen their relationship. When Homer controls a tiny one-person submarine, the experience takes a sinister turn. His oxygen grows dangerously low, communications are shut off, and his sub gets stuck in coral. He almost perishes before being saved just in time. The sequence, which was a satire of Homer's careless exploits, was dramatic yet humorous at the time. This real-life catastrophe and its sinister doppelganger, the OceanGate Titan submersible, struck an eerie parallel 17 years later in June 2023. Soon after submersion, a private submersible carrying 5 daring visitors on a tour to see the Titanic wreckage vanished. It quickly became evident that the sub had exploded under pressure at vast depths, killing everyone on board instantly when international search operations produced no results. These incidents generated extensive media coverage worldwide and raised serious concerns over the safety of experimental submersibles. The connection was immediately apparent to Simpsons fans. A comparable plunge had been accomplished by Homer in a fake episode. Both stories featured life-or-death battles at extreme depths, small subs, and communication breakdowns. One of the show's employees even mentioned that he had done dives with Titan years before any of these technological hiccups. The parallels highlighted the real risks of pushing the boundaries of technology in harsh settings, even though the episode wasn't a prediction. In 2023, what started off as a humorous incident in 2006 turned into a horrifyingly simulated catastrophe. When jokes about lunch turned into reality, a little joke was introduced in the 1994 episode of The Simpsons called Sweet Seymour Skinner's Bada Song, April 28th. The food barrel in the school lunch cafeteria was titled Assorted Horse Parts. Now with more testicles. This was viewed at the time as pure dark humor, a cartoonized dramatization of the gloomy nature of public school lunches. Most likely, the authors never meant for it to evoke more than a fleeting giggle. In 2013, over 20 years later, the so-called horse meat scandal broke out all throughout Europe. Tests showed that several batches of meat advertised as beef in the UK, Ireland, and France were really tainted with horse DNA instead of cow. There was a huge public outcry after this discovery. Customers felt deceived. The shelves in the supermarket were cleared. Brands expressed regret. To rebuild confidence in the supply chain, governments and food regulators started looking into the matter. All of a sudden, a Simpsons joke started to seem uncannily prescient. The likeness was uncanny, even though The Simpsons had nothing to do with the incident or its purported foretelling. Cartoon fiction and reality have now clashed in the minds of the general public. The humor that had previously concealed the scathing criticism of institutional pre-zine has changed into a menacing specter. What may have appeared to be wildly exaggerated could actually be a sign of actual danger. The joke quickly became the subject of media commentary, with many pointing out that the performance appeared to foresee the pollution catastrophe years before it made headlines. This could be argued to be an acute exaggeration or coincidence. However, there is more significance to the phenomenon of horse meat school lunches. It implies how scathing satire penetrates reality at the intersection of supply chain complexity, economic pressure, and regulatory failure. Agile analysis of food safety, regulation, and consumer assurance in the context of The Simpsons. The joke essentially amounts to a warning in the annals of contemporary food supplies, something that goes beyond boasting. One nuclear warning. 3 Eyes The Simpsons parody pollution and corporate carelessness in an episode titled 2 Cars in Every Garage and 3 Eyes on Every Fish, November 1st, which aired in 1990. In it, Bart captures an odd orange fish with 3 eyes while fishing close to Springfield's nuclear power plant. The populace is horrified by the mutant creature, who is soon given the name Blinky, and he starts to represent the environmental damage caused by industrial pollution. At the time, the scene in which radiation from the power station visibly deformed wildlife was acknowledged as an exaggerated condemnation of corporate irresponsibility. For the audience, it was a blatant environmental parable encased in ridiculous humor. The animation has a troubling twist as a result of the actual events that occurred 20 years later. A 3-eyed fish was captured by an Argentinian fisherman in 2011 in a reservoir close to the Cordoba nuclear plant. The images went viral on news outlets throughout the globe, and Blinky's likeness was striking. Despite the fact that experts refrained from linking the fish's deformation to radiation, the sight of such a distorted animal discovered so near a nuclear power station felt unsettling and possibly symbolic to many. Occasionally, multi-eyed fish have been spotted, such as a 3-eyed catfish from Brooklyn, and sightings from lakes in New York State. These kinds of mutations might arise spontaneously, due to pollution or genetic abnormalities. But their rarity only heightens their sinister meaning. The hazy line between prophecy and satire is something that the general public must contend with. A cartoon joke about environmental degradation evolved into a concerning representation of ecological repercussions. The Simpsons actually evoked genuine anxiety about nuclear energy, pollution, and other hidden costs of industrial advancement in addition to providing entertainment. When autocorrect makes a mistake, one of the first digital assistants, the Apple Newton, was the subject of a brief but memorable joke in the 1994 episode of The Simpsons called Lisa on Ice, which aired on November 13th. At the moment, Kearney, the school bully, attempts to write the words "beat up Martin" on his Newton. However, the handwriting recognition feature of the device misreads the scribbling and interprets it as "eat up Martha." Although the joke was brief, it effectively conveyed a key point: the annoyance of technology that misinterprets its user, frequently with hilariously disastrous outcomes. The Apple Newton was innovative at the time, yet it had flaws. Its inability to recognize handwriting became notorious, and The Simpsons made that flaw permanent in a way that outlasted the gadget itself. In the middle of the 1990s, what appeared to be a simple joke evolved into a startlingly insightful statement about the development of cell phones and predictive texting. Autocorrect was a standard feature of texting on the iPhone and other Android-powered devices in the 2000s and 2010s. Users quickly realized that this had two sides. Typing was quicker, but occasionally sentences were rendered absolutely absurd or embarrassing due to the deleted in-translation meaning. The ducking substitution of a swear word is one of the most common annoyances of modern communication as a result of its ridicule. It's interesting to note that Apple engineers later admitted that during the iPhone's development phase, the phrase "eat up Martha" became a warning to the team to be careful in making the autocorrect as dependable as possible.